Good evening and welcome. I am Uyai and here can come to you live in Magwanga promises free and fair election. Kenyan leader urges Sudan rivals to cease fire. Egypt confirms return of most soldiers held in Sudan. Roll just ahead on Spotlight Africa. Do stay with us. On Spotlight Africa, Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa, who has vowed that general elections expected later this year will be free and fair, but issued a warning to rogue civic society organizations but no date has been announced yet. The 80-year-old leader, who is seeking re-election, urged Zimbabweans to say no to violent, fair and credible elections. Reports say Mnangagwa ZANU PF party has been accused in the past of using violence and intimidating Kenyan government of misleading people after declaring a holiday on Friday to mark Eid al-Fitr. Interior Minister Kithure Kindiki and Ole Nado told the Nation website that the declaration by the government was confusing Muslim faithful, as the decision should be purely based on sighting of the moon. Nado said the end of Ramadan should condemn the government's move. Eid al-Fitr is a major religious holiday for Muslims that marks the end of the month-long fasting period of Ramadan, which is the 9th month of the Islamic calendar. Still in Kenya, President William Ruto has said his deeply main army which could have degenerated into such violent conflict. He's one of 3 African heads of state meant to be flying to Sudan's capital Khartoum to mediate an end to the fighting. Now, according to reports, after 5 days of bitter battles between the army sides to immediately cease fire, to allow unrestricted humanitarian access, and to allow the mediation delegation to land. Still on the Sudan crisis, Japan is planning to send a military aircraft to evacuate its citizens from Sudan. See Japanese nationals stuck in Sudan, stressing that the government would do its utmost to ensure the safety of Japanese residents in Sudan, including the safety and evacuation of Japanese nationals, in close cooperation with the G7 paramilitary rapid support forces. In a related development, Tanzania says it is planning to evacuate its citizens from Sudan, where rival factions have been battling each other for 5 days. About 200 people have died, mainly in crossfire, as the fighting is taking place near neighboring countries and bodies such as the African Union and the United Nations to ensure their safety. Some students stuck in Sudan have told newsmen that they are worried for their safety, as it's not safe to venture outside. Meanwhile, another challenge is elsewhere. Sudan's paramilitary group Rapid Support Forces (RSF) alleges it has shot down 2 military helicopters in a reprisal attack against the army. The group said the army attacked its fighters in Omdurman near the capital Khartoum today, despite the truce announced on Wednesday. The paramilitary group said it remained committed to the ceasefire. Meanwhile, the army is yet to comment on RSF attack claims. Moving from there, contingent of around 300 at Western Darfur region crossing the border. They reportedly feared being killed by paramilitary Rapid Support Forces (RSF) fighters. According to reports, Chad closed its borders with Sudan on Saturday when fighting between the rival factions started. Darfur, on Chad's eastern border, is where the RSF been captured by paramilitaries were evacuated. The troops were flown out of the country on 4 Egyptian military aircraft. They were captured by the RSF group on Saturday during joint exercises with the Sudanese military. The Egyptian military did not announce the evacuation, but had earlier said it was coordinating with authorities in Sudan to secure the troops' return. Meanwhile, several countries, including Japan and Tanzania, announced have reportedly been the victims of sexual violence. A veteran pastor from banned religion denied burial. Stay tuned for details of this and more after this time out.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product earns on investment and so much more. Advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Thanks for staying tuned, and now to the rest of the stories on Spotlight Africa. The war in Sudan is bringing about forces RSF as the paramilitary group battles the Sudanese army for a 6th day. In a statement recently posted on Facebook, Egypt's military spokesman said 3 Egyptian. He noted that the evacuation had taken place under comprehensive security and 3 flights had landed at an Egyptian military base in Cairo. The spokesman stabilizes and the convenient security conditions allow their return to the country. Recall that Egypt's president had said earlier in the week that the Egyptian soldiers had been in Sudan as part in Sudan's capital Khartoum, asking for help to be evacuated from the midst of fighting between rival military factions. There was hope that news of a ceasefire later today would mean they could help some of those who have reportedly been damaged in the fighting, meaning most residents in the city with a population of 10 million have been without running water for several days. With water still unavailable for most residents of the Sudanese capital, people in the west of the city are desperate to get hold of water to break their fast and risk going out to find some. According to reports, shops have run out of water to buy. Those charged for collecting the water waded into the river themselves to fill containers. National Resistance Movement NRM today to discuss the controversial anti-homosexuality bill passed by Parliament last month. According to reports say all members of Parliament are required to take a COVID-19 test before the meeting. The bill, which local media say Museveni is likely to sign into law, aggravated homosexuality. Meanwhile, the proposed legislation has attracted global condemnation, with the US threatening sanctions on Uganda if the bill is enacted into law. Meanwhile, the Libyan National Army (LNA), a group of armed forces reportedly loyal to Khalifa Haftar, has denied providing support to a rival party, but is not recognized by the international community. The Libyan National Army spokesman Ahmed Mesmari said in a statement that the General Command categorically rejected reports of providing support to one party against the other. He said the army was ready to play a mediating role between the rival parties in Sudan. Recall that the Sudan Army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Force 70 people. Elsewhere, a pastor who died last week in Eritrea cannot be buried because he did not belong to a state-recognized religion. The Orthodox, Catholic followers of other religions are subject to arrest, persecution and isolation, and all evangelical churches were banned in May 2002. Meanwhile, Pastor Nsefe Sium, who died 11 days ago, was one of the founders of the Evangelists and was released 2 months ago before dying at home in the capital, Asmara. Back here in Nigeria, local media had reported that Nigeria accrued a past 2 years. The loans were reportedly taken to renovate some of the country's railway line, its debt obligations, and had not defaulted on any of its debt service commitments. Finally, on Spotlight Africa, South Africa's tourism board was scrapped last month following an uproar, especially from cash-strapped national sport federations and labor unions, who believe the money would be better spent elsewhere. The 3-year shared slave sponsorship deal had been valued of a new board. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find and do enjoy the rest of your evening.